All right, all right. Hey, it's complicated. Let's get into it.
When it comes to relationships, what is red pill?
Red pill is it's maybe a bit misogynistic. It's this idea that women are, they only date up and across, basically.
That would be hypergamy, not red pill. I can already tell this dude don't know what he's talking about. Let's go, bitty soup.
Um, yeah, that's how I'd put it. And I think maybe a lot of neckbeards. A lot of people have maybe had trouble with women in the past.
Why are there more dating coaches for men than there are for women?
Because women are harder to understand. Men need
Because most men don't have fathers, and the men that have fathers, very few of them were actually manly men, right? Like this is just where society is right now. If fathers taught their sons about women, then men woun't need dating coaches to get women.
dating coaches because to dissect a woman now is harder, especially the modern age woman now. We don't even know what they are for real. Like women are trying to be men.
I would say it's almost easier to dissect women nowadays because y'all are just out there with all the information. Before, it was maybe more difficult for a man to understand women, although it was easier for a man to obtain and retain a woman because all he had to do was bring in a paycheck for the most part. You know what I mean? Meet a couple bullet points, right? Women didn't have necessarily a lot of options. They picked the best of the options that they had. Nowadays, y'all have all the options in the world, and y'all are just out there with all the information. So it's easier to read women and understand what women are doing and the reason why they do the things that they're doing. However, it is more difficult to obtain and retain the women because now their standards are, astronomical, right? They all want the top.
Men now, so it's hard to
Most of
like
them.
decipher and like break them down.
Because women control the dating pool, dude. If you're a dude, it's hard out here. It's hard. 5% of the guys are
It's
gonna
hard if
get
you don't
all the
know.
pussy, and the rest, you know, if a girl wants to have sex with you, she's gonna do it.
Sex sells. So women, they get attention no matter what. We build our attention off of, our money, our status, and we got to work a little harder in this society in this dating life at least.
What are the qualities of a high value man?
Definitely looks number one, money's two, and if you have enough money, you can overcome being ugly for sure. And then personality, but that's like a distant third.
Then wouldn't that make money number one, looks number two, right? Because if you got dough, then looks don't matter. If you got looks and you kind of need the dough, I mean, some guys can just get up on all looks, but how far are you going to go with just the looks, right? I mean, they'll
Third.
go far.
Just being someone who's a
How
leader,
far?
someone who can financially provide, someone who has goals and aspirations,
Okay.
someone who is willing to provide for the other partner and kind of have a yin yang with a feminine and masculine energy.
What's the difference between men's self improvement versus sculpting yourself as a tool to be used by women?
Well, that's tough
What?
because we sculpt ourselves like every like thing we do is like going towards women's like approval. We're trying to get money to get a house and get a car to get a woman at the end of the day because
I mean, you might be doing that, and that's the thing. If you're doing that just to get a woman, then it's an L, right? But if you're doing that for yourself, if you're like, I want to get my money right so I have time, right? Because that's what money gets you, right? Money gets you time, and it gets you, lesser stress. You know what I'm saying? That kind of thing. So if you're like, I want to make bread, so in order to have that stuff, so that I can get a house, or I can do this, or I can do that, then cool, right? The woman will come naturally after that. She'll see that you got your shit together, and then that she'll gravitate to that. That'll make you attractive. But if you're doing that just to get a woman, then it's a L because you're only gonna keep that woman for as long as you can keep doing that stuff, right? And you're not gonna attract the right kind of women. Or what I should say is that it'll be more difficult for you to attract the right kind of woman because you're going to have all these other the you know you'll have more options if you are doing it the right way, so that you get to weed out the BS, right, as opposed to the lesser options doing it the other way.
They want all these things and they have high expectations, and it's hard to meet those expectations.
If you want to do that stuff, you have to do it because you want it, not because you want the girl who wants that.
Doing it for yourself and improving yourself as compared to sculpting yourself for women.
Improving yourself to be a tool for somebody else really don't benefit you none. That's simple.
How is that not the ultimate form of simping?
You know, it is simping at the end of the day, but you know, at the end of the day, you know, I wanna treat my woman right. I wanna.
It's not. If you're putting into yourself and you're building yourself up to a place where you're confident, you're strong, you're able to accomplish not only your goals, but you're able to tackle problems as they arise swiftly with you know, the least amount of stress on you. You know what I mean? If you get yourself to that point right there, that's for you, right? Then again, after you're there, a woman will see that and she'll come along. Many women will come along, and you'll get to be like, and then if you do find one or two or whatever it is that floats your boat, find one that you feel compliments you in in your struggle and your life goals and all the things that you're doing. Well, then you would bring her on board your ship, right? To be and go. Is that simping? No. I mean, I don't see that as simping anyways. The fact that she feels like you are the one that she wants to attach herself to, that whose ship she wants to sail away on. I mean, that's not simping, that's leading, right?
I'm kind of a romantic, you know. I'm kind of an anomaly.
Maybe self-improvements on the inside, like personal development, and, you know, just getting jacked and being a man's man or Chad is probably.
Why should self-proclaimed dating coaches set the standard for what's considered high value when most men don't even qualify?
I don't think they should. It's not based off reality. I think a lot of these people, you know, basing their analysis off what we see on TV.
I didn't understand how most of these dating coaches are single, and how can you take, you know, advice from these people who are single? Because if you want to get a relationship, you know, talk to somebody who's in a relationship.
I think dating coaches.
I don't necessarily agree with that, right? Because you never know how those people got in a relationship. You don't know the relationship between a man and a woman, right? You don't know unless you know how that man acts. Unless you understand how that man acts, right? Then you can kind of gauge the relationship between his woman and him, right? You can see, okay, this is how he holds frame. I see this is how she behaves around him, right? How she, you know, how she treats him, whether it's with respect or without, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. Like from that. That's how you would gauge a person and their potential ability to, you know, how they got to that position. But just because a person's in a relationship doesn't mean that they took the right steps to get into that relationship, or the steps that you should take to get into a relationship. Doesn't mean that the dynamic in their relationship is the kind of relationship that you want to have. Like there's all these things, right? But I don't want to say like a dating coach, but somebody who has knowledge about women, who understands women, who's been with plenty of women, you know, whether it be short-term, long-term relationships, flings, sexual conquest, you know, whatever. They're used to dealing with a lot of women, different women in a different kind of way, in different kind of ways, because some women are different, you know, as far as how they act. Most women are relatively similar as far as like their needs and wants, but definitely in the way they go about getting it, some women are different, right? And so a man with experience, that man, you know, just because he's not in a relationship, he might not have found the right woman that he wants to be in a relationship with. He might not be in a position in his life to where he wants to get in a relationship. He might have experienced relationship and now doesn't want to be in a relationship because he prefers the other way to move, right? Everybody's different. But the one thing you do know about this guy, right, that you can see is that he has dealt with women. And if you deal with women, you learn about women. That's just how it is. You can't just be with one woman your whole life and say you know women. No, you know your woman, which is great. Okay, that's wonderful. But to really understand women, you got to be with women. I mean, that's just the bottom line.
Are not speaking from their own experience, or they have an agenda. They're a dating coach. So I think if most men are not qualified, then that's just going to drive.
Yeah, and I don't like that term, like dating coach. I don't know, man. There's some I've seen like some guys or some classes, that are pretty spot on that like you could actually learn something, and I guess you could call the dude a dating coach, but most of these people are just out here like capping,
Have more demand for what they're coaching. So inherently they're
like calling,
incentivized to
Instagram
keep people
an IG
unhappy.
model.
It's almost like there's more money in treating cancer than curing cancer.
Exactly. Exactly what I'm trying to say, yeah.
If high value means money and status, would that make Hitler and Stalin high value men?
I don't think so, because I mentioned morals, and I don't know. You can't tell me that they had the best morals,
In social media, you don't really see, hey, this is an honest conversation, this is an honest guy, or this is an honest woman. It's like she's a hot woman, successful man.
Why don't these coaches focus on morals and integrity?
Because those are internal, and everything the ladies see is external, dude. We got to do it for the gram.
He works in the NBA, or he's a musician. It's never, hey, that's my honest friend that I've known for 20 years, that I can trust with anything. So I think just inherently in the culture
That's not what
today,
women are attracted to.
character and integrity is not as valued as it should be.
I really don't like the high value thing. I think every man that handles his business is high value. I don't think it has nothing to do with your status or your accomplishments or especially not your material value.
I would agree. Any man who takes care of the people around him, has some kind of moral standing, holds himself accountable, leads by his word. I would consider that to be a man of high value. You ain't got to make millions and millions of dollars. Some women you'll have to, for sure, and for them to consider that. But in general, right, like there are all these bullet points that you can hit, and you don't have to be the top of each one of these bullet points, right? You can hit them all, and as long as you fall within that category, then that makes you a high value man. Some of the best men in our history didn't have a lot of money. You know what I'm saying?
Your materialistic possessions, none of that stuff matters to me.
How is telling men that they need to become high value not just shaming all the average
And to be clear, some of the worst people in the world have had all the money.
men who can't make it to the top 1%?
Dude, if you're average, she's not going to fuck you. I mean, it just is what it is.
Does that mean that 99% of men don't qualify for women?
I'd say like 95, yeah.
Doesn't that reflect more upon the character of the majority of women?
I would agree.
I'm not going to say 95% of men don't qualify for women. That's not true. A lot of men qualify for women. A lot of women just hold themselves to a standard that is higher than what they actually qualify for. Right, women tend to bat out of their league a lot, right? Because men will sleep down, right? That's just it, right? So women will be with all these men that are, high status, blah blah blah, but they don't actually qualify for them. They can't actually land that dude. The dude who she's qualified for is the blue collar worker that she ain't sleeping with, right? So to say that they're not qualified, that's not really the right terminology. They're not desired. That's definitely 95% of men are probably not desired by most women, right? And that's what you want, is you want desire from your woman.
Agree with that. That's why most
You want her to want you, right? Like the same way you want
women are single or unhappy.
Even if you have a great woman, her friends might be like, oh, well, he didn't fly you out to Vegas, he didn't do this, he didn't do that. So it's like you're fighting against something that
And that's why you don't let your girlfriend hang out with her single friends, because single women keep women single. Like if you're in a relationship, none of that's going to happen, or the conversation isn't going to happen like that, because you know each other's financial situation, or you have a pretty good understanding of it. You know whether or not, if this dude's got a bunch of money and he's not taking care of you, then he don't care about you, and you know that, right? Or if he's got no money and he's doing everything in his power to take care of you, well, then you know he's got some faults that he's got to deal with, but at least he's feeling you, right? There's a difference there. Women are, they keep each other in that bullshit. And just remember, the dude with the bag
Isn't
he's
real,
just gonna bag you,
which
and
is substantiated and validated by social media.
Honestly, I think maybe the women don't care about the morals, but that's a good one. You see girls with a bunch of assholes and shit instead of being with the nice guy, which that alone shows maybe the women don't want the morals.
Why is dating
They
advice
do
typically
when they
about
get older,
coaching men to
for the
improve, but never about humbling women to accept more
don't want
average
it in their
men like they
20s.
did in the past?
Because they're not going to. They got options, man. If they have to choose, they're gonna choose the best, and the best will sleep with them, but they won't necessarily have long-term relationships with them.
So a lot of this content that's saying the men, that's just kind of what it always has been and what it's continuing to be. But yeah, I think women should also be held accountable, just like men are. Like there's privilege to being a man. There is a ton of privilege today to being an attractive woman.
Why should men be expected to bring more to the table than they ever have in order to please women who bring less to the table than they ever have?
Dude, it's not the 60s anymore. Women have thousands of options. I mean, she could literally slide in Michael B. Jordan's DMs. She'll be front row at a Raiders game. It's just how it is. Men have more competition than ever, and women have more options than ever.
You have to be at this level. If not, you're not a high value man. I think they say it like as motivation, because the truth is not everyone's going to make it up there. But if you believe that you're going to, you might make it up there,
How is telling men that they need to become high value not just more of blaming men? Haven't we blamed men enough?
Yeah, we have. I think it's just another way to push a narrative.
Men are the bad guys for sure. But yeah, it's life's a fucking competition. So either you want to compete or get lost, dude.
Instead of sculpting men to appease a poor
I don't know
woman's
what that
character,
was,
why don't we focus on the poor quality of women?
That doesn't sell. Nobody's gonna buy that.
Because at the end of the day, the women will always have options, and the men have to chase.
The women set the rules for the dating market, so you got to appease women. I mean, they are the select.
Men only have to chase if they don't invest in themselves. That's really what it boils down to. If you're a man and you invest in yourself, you invest time and energy into building up your resources, building up your physique, your body, your mental, these things, right? Then you're not chasing anything. They're gonna be chasing you. I promise. If you got your money right, you got your status on point, the men around you respect you. You know what I mean? You're on your purpose and your mission, man. You ain't gonna be able to shake them off. Like you're not chasing nothing. So it's only men who don't get to that status, to that level, who have to chase. You know what I mean? Now, there's a difference between showing interest and chasing, right? So just keep it real.
And sexual intercourse. It's not the men who set the rules.
They're not able to get as much sexual attention as they want to. And so the caveat of that right now is to improve themselves, but I'm not saying that that's exactly 100% the answer. I think that men should be improving themselves.
It is the answer, men. It is the answer. Improve yourself 100%, right? Because women aren't going to change, right? The floodgates are open. You've given them the ability to do whatever, right? So the only way that you can be successful, guaranteed success, is for you to change. Get your shit, your money together, get your physique together, all these things I just said, right? Like to get it right, and do it for yourself. Do it for yourself because that's where you want to be. That's how you want to look. That's how you want to feel. And the byproduct of that, right? Like 1 + 2 + 2, right? The byproduct of all that stuff that comes out, women will find you attractive and they will gravitate towards you.
But I also think that women should get a little bit off their high horse.
Why are we still pushing for traditional gender roles and marriage without first changing the laws? Have you seen the divorce rates?
I think we should be educating on different types of relationships, non-traditional, traditional.
Nah, shut up. I don't believe that at all. We should still maintain traditional relationships, but we need to change the laws. That's really where we're at, because now we're at a point where we're quote unquote equal, right? All this equality, blah, blah, blah. So then the laws should no longer favor the women. They were set up a certain way because women didn't have much. And so when men and women separated back then, women were left destitute or whatever, right? And so the laws were created to allow for a woman and a man to get together. A man, yeah, he spends all of his life working to provide for his family, but the woman was spending all of her life working and providing for her family in that way. And so in the end, if they were to separate in any kind of fashion, now the woman's given 8 years to her family, has no financial standing, has no job, has no whatever, right? And he may have been given 8 years to his family kind of as well, but he has the job, the financial standing, all that stuff, right? And so that was the issue, and that's why the laws were made the way that they are. However, that doesn't happen now. That's not the way. It's not. Very few women are actually going home and being mothers for 10 years and getting left destitute. That is not happening anymore, right? In order for a woman to be in a relationship, to be in a marriage and be at home for 10 years taking care of kids and not working, that means the man had to be bringing home a sizable amount of income in 2023. Like, he's got to be making bread in order for a woman to stay home. Not 50,000, not 60,000, right? Like, in order for her to stay home and for them to live a life that they're not at each other's throats, he's got to be making bread in order to be able to do that. So now, unfortunately, that class of citizen that can do that is now higher, right? It's not just your average guy. It has to be an above average guy to be able to provide that kind of lifestyle. And in that situation, if that were to ever happen, if that happens, most often, right? Maybe there are situations where it doesn't, but very, very rarely does this happen. Most often when they separate, the woman receives half, receives house, receives kids, receives money, right? Cash and prizes. Woo, okay. That happens now more often than not. If the relationship were to ever go that way. But more often than not, the relationship doesn't go that way. Women work. Women have education. Women have bills. Women have, all the same crap that men do. And they're bringing home bread, sometimes more than their man. But the laws are still as if they weren't doing all that, right? And that's where the issue is. We got to change that.
And then the laws are all about politics, all about money.
Marry this woman, give up all this power to a woman with these laws in this time. You must be in love if you're doing that, because logically it does not make sense. And if
it's
you're
not just that you're in love, you're not educated, right? Most men that are willing to do this, right, unless there are certain things in play, unless they have things like a prenuptial agreement, the woman makes just as much money as him or equal to, you know what I mean? Like, unless there are these things, then either the man's not educated if he's doing that. Because if he were educated, right, then no person, not just a man, even a woman though, no woman is going to sign a contract where she could potentially lose half of her stuff based off of feelings. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
a woman, then understand what that means.
The problem with traditional roles is they're not written into law. The laws are written into law, but not the roles of the sexes. So,
like, divorce or marriage is not
issue,
easy.
too.
It's like a sacrifice on both parties, especially for the man.
Although I don't agree with traditional marriage, people are still pushing for it because they want that love. Love is not what it was before. So back in the day, relationships used to last so long, so people want to get back to that. They want to figure out what it takes to be like my grandma.
What people want to get back to that? How can you get back to that when women are awarded cash and prizes for not doing that?
Grandmother and my grandfather, you feel me? So that's why they push it, but that doesn't mean that it was right in what they did, because a lot of those people are unhappy.
Are women the problem, or are the people influencing women the problem?
I think that's the other thing. Who said you're supposed to be happy? What person lived life from 0 to 100 happy? Like, what are you talking about? This whole to be happy, you're not going to be happy. No man is going to be happy. No woman is going to be happy. You're not. The only way you're going to be happy, I mean, like, you're not going to be happy 100% of the time. You're just not going to be. There are going to be times where you're sad. You're a human being. You're emotional, right? Like, and just because you're not happy now, if you knew, if most of these women knew that if they hit the divorce button, they wouldn't get shit. If no fault divorce disappeared and it had to be substantial fault, Let's say infidelity. Okay, that's fine. But also, like, you couldn't just be like irreconcilable differences. Oh, most of these women wouldn't even be getting married. They'd be like, hold on. I can't actually take half. Like, what? Or if there had to be a time limit on, oh man, it'd be.
I think everything's a problem. I think guys are the problem for letting this shit happen, and women are the problem for pushing it. You know, it's not just a man or a man; it's everyone.
Were women like this in the past, and are they like this overseas?
No, they're not. They're definitely not.
So is it female nature or female nurture?
Female nurture.
Why are men expected to change their biology, their nature, because women won't change their culture?
That's a strange question. That's a good one. I like that one. I don't think that we should have to change because at the end of the day, men make the rules that govern societies.
Quote unquote hypergamy is biological. I think it's almost universal. If I had to guess, women prefer to date up and across in all societies, not just Western culture.
Why do people assume that things can't change when history has proven that things have already changed?
And they are continuing to change, but people aren't noticing that since women have started this feminist movement, we have been globally going downhill.
Like men's right, like it's assumed that men already have all the rights. I think in Vegas in particular, women have a lot of maybe unfair advantages, particularly with the nightlife and getting free stuff, and men can't get in certain places, have all women's tables, that type of thing. But you're not going to go around talking about men's rights because it's a bad look, right? It's all about women's rights, and like nobody's going to take your side, or it's just you're pushing a boulder uphill at that point.
I mean, isn't that even more of a reason to talk about it?
Yeah, you could. I'm not good. I'm not going to fight that fight.
Right now in our society, men are just more targeted, and it's the way it is. And honestly, until there's a movement otherwise, I don't think that a whole lot's going to change. And I think the only option for a man to be able to get the attention they want and the female reception that they're needing, they're really just going to have to level themselves up. And that's really the only answer right now until things change.
Just because you're anti-feminist, does that mean you're necessarily pro-men?
I would say no. That doesn't. Anti-feminist does not mean that you're pro-man. And I also don't think anti-feminist means that you're not for equality. It's just that the agenda of what the feminist movement is.
The feminist movement is all trash. It's all trash now. Like whatever it was in the beginning before I was born, like it was necessary, 100%. Like, things needed to change. Today, man, like all I see is just raging hormones and just like, oh man, it's crazy what's going on.
There are toxic things to it. So you can be, pro-women and anti-feminist. You are not necessarily anti or pro-men. If you're
feminism nowadays, I would say a lot of the feminism the talking points, the things that I hear are negatively impact women. Like telling a woman that she's the same as a man and she can sleep around with no consequences is a negative impact towards women, their psyche, their body, their mind, their spirit and their heart, all of that. Like the feminist movement is not a positive movement towards women.
Anti-feminist.
Don't anti-feminists often push chivalry, which still places women above men?
Yes, I would say it does. Feminism has really pushed to bring.
Man, I believe in chivalry 100%. The problem is that it's designed for not this culture. It's difficult to be chivalrous in a culture where one, it's not appreciated at all, right? Like you shouldn't be doing something chivalrous just to get appreciation. But if you are the sex who is benefiting from chivalry, you should be appreciative of that benefit and what comes along with it, right? Like, for instance, like if I'm with a woman, I might not expect her to make me a sandwich every afternoon at 1:00, right? That seems a little bit out of hand, right? Okay, maybe that was something that could have happened back in the day. Nowadays, that seems a little bit out of control. I wouldn't even expect her to make me a sandwich 2 times a week in the afternoon sometime. I'm just using this as an example. However, if she brought me a sandwich every afternoon, presumably it was a different kind of sandwich, right? I don't want to give that the same thing. But if she was to bring me a sandwich every afternoon or every couple of afternoons or whatever it was, not only in my head would I be like, oh, this is something that, you know, my woman does, and I see that as a womanly duty, but I would be appreciative of that act of service happening, right? Like that's it. I might not bring her a sandwich every afternoon. And if I did bring her a sandwich every once in a while, she'd be appreciative, right? But she's not going to expect it. It's not part of our interaction. But her keeping me fed on a regular basis so I don't get hangry, I can continue to work, I can do this, I can do that, you know what I mean? Which inherently benefits our family, right? Her doing that, right, is playing a part. And I would be appreciative of that. I should be appreciative of that. And so that's the, you know, chivalry is the same thing, but on the opposite sex, right? Like women shouldn't necessarily expect that a man's going to do this for her on a regular basis, but it is something that men do for women. It shouldn't be a shock when it happens. And if it happens on a regular basis, or even on a every once in a while basis, a woman should still be appreciative of that respect, that position that she holds and that he holds, right? Like we should appreciate each other for that thing. So.
Being a woman,
but it's 2023. Women don't want to have the doors held open for them. Women can open their own damn doors, right? Like this is what we hear all the time.
As a superior over men, and I think that it's a false narrative that's really gotten instilled in a lot of women's mind, and it's just not necessarily true. And I think that they're going to deal with the sacrifices that they're making right now in their future, because I think biologically a lot of women want to have kids and have traditional roles.
We're going to see a lot of women having to deal with the sacrifices that they've made without even knowing. The next 40, 50 years is going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy.
Once again, the world is fallen. People live in sin. They love themselves, not God.
What's happening?
What are women exclusively held accountable for?
Women are held accountable for their bodies, for the way they smell.
Are they? What?
For being submissive to the man.
Really?
If the man is real in his love towards the woman.
He is what's the word? Like in a perfect world, this is what they would be held accountable. They're not actually being held accountable to that. So.
What are women exclusively accountable for? Okay. That shouldn't be a hard question, but it is. Hold on.
Can you name anything in society that's not blamed on men?
No, most wars are blamed on men, rightfully so. Most violent crimes are blamed on.
Most wars are blamed on men, rightfully so. You know how many wars have been fought over women? Huh? Do you know? Really?
Men, right?
And a good woman would tell her man, "Hey, don't go to war over me."
Rightfully so.
Right? Let's just.
I mean, we're all fighting and starting wars for the love and booty and beauty of women. I said that right. Love, booty, and beauty.
Why would we expect men to have an emotional well-being in a society that always blames men?
Wow. That's a good one. Again,
because we expect men to be on top.
It's the way that it's been for years. And to me that
no, it's not the way. So the blame is the way that it's been for years, maybe. Okay. But as far as men and their ability to hold their cool, like we've never been able to take all the pressure, right? It's just the difference is now we're living in a society where those outbursts are monitored, right?
That's wild. That's crazy.
Why would we expect men to have an emotional well-being in a society that always blames men?
I guess that's a way to keep us trying to be high value, right?
See, remember, even the most high value, most powerful of men in the past, right, did some crazy things, right? Like they did some crazy things to people and you know, we ain't gonna talk about it, but like that is a mechanism of blowing off steam. I'm not saying that it's right. It's not right. But the fact of the matter is nowadays, those things are just monitored and policed, right? And so when we see it, we're like, oh, he can't hold the shit. 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 You know, it's like, well, actually men have always been pressure relief valves, right? They've always needed pressure relief valves. Even the strongest of men, the hardest working of farmers, the kings of kings, right? They've all had to relieve pressure in some kind of fashion. And that is just now very, very frowned upon. That's all.
There are a lot of men that are hurting or are going through these or dealing with these things, but they're not very vocal about it, and they don't have,
Nor have we ever been.
a platform.
Men are not
because
vocal
as
about
a,
anything.
you know, in society as a
Only
man, you're
right
just-
now, YouTube, we can talk about it. You know what I mean? Only right now. Even as a kid, me growing up, there was no platform to talk about it. Like, we didn't know what the hell we were talking about. We didn't have anybody to talk to. Most men, when they talk to each other, they don't talk about these we never had these kind of conversations, right, about this stuff. It's like, oh yeah, no, that's exactly what I've been seeing. Oh, that's crazy, you know? Yeah.
Just told to deal with
It doesn't happen.
Dude, you gotta grab onto your fucking nutsack and get over it.
Take it like a man.
Get over it, he says. Get over it.
Take it like a man.
Take it like a man.
Crazy, right?
Take it like a man.
Crazy, right? Like, it's funny after all that, you know, take it like a man is you know, that's what we've all heard, right? What all men hear all the time, and that's fine. Like, I'm not like complaining about it. I'm saying that this is something that has always been the case. The difference now is society's changing, women are changing, right? Men are being more policed and are being forced to change the way that they behave, based off of new standards that are being set forth, right? It's not men who have changed. We haven't. We've been the same for decades and decades. Anyways, like, comment, subscribe. Hope you guys have yourself a wonderful evening, and I'll talk to you later.